an unattended death call for a Tammy Daybell.
I do.
At that time, prior to your response to the scene, had you ever heard Tammy Daybell's name?
No, I had not.
Had you ever heard Chad Daybell's name?
No,
So you weren't familiar with either one of them?
I was not.
Who dispatches you to an unattended death?
Whichever dispatch officer is working that day.
So is it fair to say that when there's an unattended death, that someone will call into law enforcement and 911 or otherwise, and then they'll find an officer on duty and send them to the scene?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, the state wishes to request admission of what we believe is a stipulated exhibit number 233, which is a recorded 911 call made by Garth and Chad Daybell on the day of Tammy's death.
Any objection? Okay, exhibit 233 then is the audio file of that call. It will be admitted by stipulation. Just make sure we have the correct exhibit submitted to the clerk, and then if you wish to publish, you may.
Thank you, Your Honor. Would the court have me send it up now, or should I play it first?
As long as you're convinced it's the right thing, you can go ahead and start publishing.
Thank you. Thank you.
911, where's your emergency?
We're at 202 North, 1900 East.
What's going on?
We just found my mom. She's on the ground frozen, or she's stiff, and I don't know.
Are you in Madison County or Fremont County?
Well, I'm Chad, the husband. She's clearly dead. We don't
Oh,
know.
sorry. Okay. Okay. Are you in Rexburg, or because your address shows
Fremont
Rexburg
County.
address, but you're in Fremont County?
It's a mile past.
Okay.
Line. Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, she's not even. She's gross.
Okay. Can I get your name?
Chad Daybell. Oh man. Oh.
Okay, Chad. I'm going to get somebody out to you right now, okay?
Yeah, the corner where the blinking yellow light is with the red house.
Yes, sir. Red house on the corner.
Yes.
Blinking yellow light.
Right.
Okay. We'll get somebody out to you, okay? I'm so sorry.
Okay.
If you need anything else, you call me back, okay?
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Ma'am, to the best of your recollection, was that particular phone call related to your response to Tammy Daybell?
Yes.
Prior to responding to this, let me withdraw that. To the best you recall, what time of day was it that you were responding?
It was approximately 6 a.m.
And was it light outside yet?
I don't think so.
Prior to your response that morning, approximately how many times had you personally been involved with responding to an unattended death?
Probably 5 to 10.
And when you did, in fact, arrive, what was the first thing that you observed?
I observed Garth Daybell in the living room. He's the one that let me into the house. And then Chad came into the living room shortly after I arrived. And I just asked them what was going on and to show me where Tammy was.
And did they do that?
They did.
Let me pause and ask, at that point in time, was anybody else at the home?
No,
Did anybody else later arrive at the home that morning?
yes,
Who do you recall arriving at the home?
The deputy coroner arrived, the coroner arrived, and then some family members also arrived later.
And for the jury's sake, to the best we can identify those people by name.
Yes, sorry, the deputy coroner, Cammy Wilmore, the coroner, Brenda Dye, and I'm not sure who the family was. I didn't speak with them after they arrived.
Were you aware if there was a male or female family member that arrived?
I think both. Several of his children showed up as well.
So you were explaining that you arrived and you made contact with Garth and then Chad?
Correct.
Just to help the jury have a picture in their mind, what was the layout of the home, the best that you can recall?
The living room is the first room that you come into, and then there's a hallway to the right. There are several bedrooms and a bathroom. Directly behind the living room across the hallway was the kitchen, and then to the left was the garage.
And relative to the front door, did you come in the front door?
I did.
Relative to that front door, where is the room that you ultimately saw Tammy's body in?
To the right at the end of the hallway.
When you came through the front door, where do you recall both Garth and or Chad being inside the home?
In the living room.
So could you explain again, what was the first conversation that you had with either one?
I asked them where Tammy was and what had happened, and then they walked me back to the bedroom where her body was.
At that point in time, did either one of them seem to have any emotion or anything like that going on?
Yes.
Both, or which one?
Chad was definitely more emotional than Garth was. He was sobbing and then would gasp for air. Garth was a little bit more reserved and didn't say very much.
So when you got back to the room where Tammy was, what was the first thing that you observed?
I observed Tammy's body on the bed, and her feet were hanging off the corner of the bed, and the mattress was pushed off the box spring just a little bit, and she was covered up with a blanket up to about her shoulders.
In that moment, did you notice anything else about Tammy's body?
Not from the doorway until I moved in closer to her.
Before you moved in closer, did you engage in Chad in any conversation about what had gone on?
Yes, during the walk back and while I first entered the bedroom, he was kind of explaining to me the course of events that had happened that morning.
What do you recall him explaining to you at that time?
He had told me that about midnight, Tammy had woken up with a coughing fit, and he said she had vomited on the bedroom floor and then had moved into the bathroom down the hallway and had continued vomiting. And he said he got up to help her clean up and then put her back to bed. And then they both went back to sleep. And then at approximately 5:40 a.m., he had felt the blankets shift off of him in bed and had woken up, and he said that he had thought Tammy had fallen off the bed. So he told her to get back on the bed. And then when she didn't answer him, he stood back up, turned the lights on, and found that she was unresponsive.
Did he indicate at that point whether Tammy had fallen all the way off the bed or just partly?
He did. He indicated that she had fallen partially off the bed because her feet were wrapped in the blanket and the sheets. And so her feet were still up on top of the mattress, but the side of her head was on the floor.
What did Chad do or say next, if anything?
He said after he had turned the lights on and found her, he checked her and then called to Garth for help to come help move her back onto the bed, which Garth came over and they both moved her body back up onto the bed.
So when you first, let me withdraw that. This is being explained to you as you're walking into the room where Tammy's body is.
That's correct.
So when you first walk into that room, did what you saw with Tammy's body match the description of what Chad had just explained to you?
Yes, it did.
And what about the covers on the bed?
The covers on the bed had been pulled back up, covering her arms to about her shoulders.
When you arrived, or when you got into the room, Can you describe for the jury what your observations were about the condition of Tammy's body at that point?
I first checked her for a pulse, which she did not have. Her skin was colder than the room temperature. Her body was stiff. And I recognized that she did have some pink foam coming out of her mouth and down the side of her face, and she was deceased.
And you personally had made the determination for yourself that she was deceased because of her pulse, or what was the big factor?
Correct. It was a combination of her body being cold and the fact that she did not have a pulse.
And at this point in time, when you're investigating an unattended death, do you gather more information from family?
I do.
Did you do that in this case?
I did.
What did you do next?
I asked Chad about if she had any serious medical conditions or had been sick recently. He told me that she had been suffering from a pretty bad cold and that she didn't like to see the doctor very often, so that she hadn't been diagnosed with any serious medical conditions. He did tell me she had fallen in the driveway a few weeks prior that she had seen the doctor for, and she was going through menopause. He did say that she had suffered from low blood pressure and did have fainting spells once in a while as well.